Welcome to Cryptex Crime. We like to believe that evil hides in the shadows. We imagine crimes happening in dark alleyways or deep in the woods, far from the prying eyes of the public. But sometimes the darkest secrets are placed right out in the open, waiting for us to find them. Imagine sitting down for a casual lunch on a sunny afternoon. You look out the window, expecting to see manicured bushes and flowers. Instead, you see the remnants of a murder mystery that has stumped police for decades. In today's case, we are looking at the disturbing disappearance of Linda Sherman. It is a story of a rocky marriage, a mysterious letter written in purple ink, and a gruesome discovery at a popular Mexican restaurant that suggested the killer wasn't just hiding the body, he was taunting the police. I'm your host. Let's unlock the file. The date is June 28th, 1990. It's early in the afternoon in Bridgeton, Missouri. At the Casa Gallardo restaurant, the lunch rush is winding down. Two flight attendants are sitting at a table near the window, chatting over their meal. It's a completely mundane scene. But then, one of them glances outside into the restaurant's landscaping. The area is well kept: gravel, flowers, manicured bushes. But resting there, stark white against the greenery, is an object that doesn't belong. It's a human skull. Panic ensues. Police arrive on the scene quickly. Chief Walter Muter takes charge of the site. What strikes him immediately is the placement of the skull. It hasn't been dragged there by an animal. It hasn't washed up from a storm. The skull is sitting upright. It looks deliberate. The chief notes that the way it was situated gave him the distinct impression that somebody had placed it there, specifically wanting it to be found. Forensics determined the skull belongs to an adult female. However, the initial investigation hits a wall. A thorough examination reveals very little. No obvious trauma that could point to a cause of death immediately. At the time, investigators have a theory that points away from murder. You see, during this specific time period in 1990, a local cemetery in the area was being relocated. Bodies were being exhumed. Graves were being moved. Chief Muter theorizes that this might be a sick prank. Perhaps teenagers stole a skull from one of the open graves and placed it outside the restaurant to scare people. Because there is no immediate evidence of foul play, the police accept this theory. The skull is cataloged. It is placed in a box. It is stored in the evidence room at the Bridgeton County Morgue. And then, it is forgotten. For 14 months, that skull sits in silence, a nameless Jane Doe in an evidence locker. Whatever secret that skull held might have remained buried in paperwork forever, if not for a mysterious delivery. On September 6, 1991, over a year after the discovery at the restaurant, an envelope arrives at the Veneta Park Police Station. This station is 25 miles away from where the skull was found. The envelope is unsealed. Lieutenant Michael Webb opens it. Inside, he finds an old promotional flyer for the Casa Gallardo restaurant, the very same restaurant where the skull was discovered. The flyer is 8 months old, but it is what's on the back that freezes the blood in the lieutenant's veins. Stamped in purple ink is a message. It reads, "The Bridgeton police have L. Sherman's skull." This is a taunt, a direct challenge to law enforcement. The sender was careful. They wanted the police to know who the victim was, but they didn't want to be caught. With a name now in hand, L. Sherman, police turn to dental records. They compare the teeth of the skull found in the bushes to the dental charts of a missing woman named Linda Sherman. It is a match. The prank theory is dead. This is Linda Sherman. She was a 26-year-old wife and mother who worked at the U.S. Government Records Center in St. Louis. She had been missing since April 22, 1985, 6 years prior to the letter arriving. Suddenly, a cold case from 1985 collides with a bizarre discovery from 1990, and the questions begin to pile up. Who killed Linda? Why wait 5 years to reveal the location of her skull? And most disturbingly, Where is the rest of her body? To understand who would want Linda dead, we have to go back to who she was. At 16, Linda was a typical teenager growing up in the St. Louis suburb of Veneta Park. In high school, she fell in love with her sweetheart, 17-year-old Donald Sherman, known to everyone as Don. They married young on February 10, 1975. By August, they had a daughter, Patricia Marie, known as Patty. Don took a job at a local gas station to support the family. He claimed that, in the beginning, they were happy. But as the years went on, the teenage romance began to curdle. According to Linda's brother Dennis, Don was obsessed. He needed to know Linda's every move. He was possessive. If Linda was even a few minutes late coming home from work, Don would interrogate her. He isolated her. And according to Dennis, the emotional abuse frequently turned physical. The turmoil was constant. In their 9-year marriage, Linda took Patty and moved out several times. By 1982, Linda had reached a breaking point. She filed an order of protection against Don. In the court documents, she didn't mince words. She described Don as mentally unstable. She claimed he had threatened her. She claimed he had tampered with her car. Most chillingly, she stated that Don had threatened to take his own life, quote, and possibly that of my daughter and myself. Yet the cycle of abuse is complex. Within a month, Linda went back. By April of 1985, family members say Linda was finally done. She was making concrete plans. She was going to take Patty and leave Don for good. On April 22nd, Linda clocked out of her night job at 2:16 a.m. She arrived home around 3 a.m. Don Sherman was awake. According to Don's account, they got into a heated argument immediately. They stayed up until at least 4 a.m. fighting. The next morning, the routine changed. Usually, Linda took their daughter Patty to school. But on this morning, Don told Patty to get in his car. Patty remembers looking at the couch before she left. She saw her mother lying there. Linda was facing the back cushions, her face hidden. She didn't move. She didn't get up to kiss Patty goodbye. She didn't say a word. She was just laying there. Patty walked out the door with her father. That was the last time she would ever see her mother. Don claims that when he returned that afternoon, Linda was on edge. He says she drove off in her car around 6 p.m., but no one else saw her leave. She never arrived at work. She never came home. 2 days later, her sister Fran and brother-in-law Sam drove to the Lambert Airport on a hunch. And there, in the short-term parking lot, they found it. Linda's yellow Volkswagen Beetle. The doors were locked. Inside, they could see her hat and her school books. But no Linda. Officers popped the lock, but the trunk was empty. Records showed the car had been there since April 24th, 2 days after she vanished. But Linda was not listed on any outgoing flights. In the years following her disappearance, Don claimed he saw Linda alive. He told people that days after she vanished, she drove past him in a van. A year later, Don filed for divorce on the grounds of abandonment. But here is where the Casa Gallardo connection becomes terrifying. The restaurant where the skull was found in 1990, it was one of Don Sherman's favorite hangouts. He was a regular there. In fact, he admitted to being at the restaurant the very evening after the skull was discovered. When the purple ink letter identified the skull as Linda's, police were astounded. Investigators noted that Don wanted to remarry, but legally, he was still married to a missing woman. He needed proof of her death to move on. Some speculate that placing the skull, a piece of evidence that proved Linda was deceased, was a calculated move to close the book on his marriage. And indeed, Don did remarry in 1994. Decades passed. The police never stopped trying. They exhumed the skull in 1999 to test the soil. They used cadaver dogs, but they never found the rest of her remains. The clock eventually ran out on justice. Lieutenant Webb, the dedicated investigator, passed away in 2009. Linda's brother Dennis died in 2016. And on May 7, 2015, Don Sherman died at the age of 58. He took his secrets to the grave. Today, Patty is left with only fragments of the truth. She believes her father was responsible. She hopes that one day, new technology will lead to the rest of her mother's remains, so she can finally give Linda Sherman a proper burial. Until then, the skull in the garden remains a grim reminder of a justice that arrived in the mail, but never in the courtroom. If you found this case intriguing, please leave a like and subscribe to the channel. We dig up the files that others have forgotten. Who do you think sent the letter in purple ink? Was it Don or someone else entirely? Let me know in the comments below. Until next time, stay safe and watch where you step.